I'm not gonna lose. This is what I came here to do. I walk that wire and I take that step. Won't look down, got no regrets. Won't look down, got no regrets. I was made for this. I was made for this. Born in the wild, formed in the fire, built for the battle. Oh, I was made for this. I was made for this. Mind over matter, silence the doubters. I have the power. Oh, I was made for this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lunch with Loren. Thank you all for joining me. I've got some news today about the lawsuit, and unfortunately, you're not going to be any happier than I am about it. But it is what it is, and we're going to talk about that today. What I'd like to do during this live is show a video clip from my attorney, and then I will come back and have some things to say, and then I'll bring in Christopher Gergen to add a little bit of political commentary to this. So with that, here's a video from my attorney from last night.
Hello, this is Dr. Stephen Gergen, and I'm coming to you now in reference to the King County case, Culp for Governor, the campaign on behalf of Loren Culp versus Kim Wyman et al., Secretary of State. This is a King County cause number 20-217720-2. I wanted to speak with you for a few minutes concerning where we are on this particular lawsuit. And I want to review for you some of the facts that we have in our pleadings and what's going on. You know, on November 3rd, we had an election. It was certified by the county auditors on November 24th, 2020. And it was certified by the Secretary of State on December 1st. And the results showed Jay Inslee receiving 2,294,243 votes, and Loren Culp receiving 1,749,066 votes, really the largest vote total ever cast for a Republican candidate in the state of Washington. The total votes were 4,056,459. Now, of those votes, we did some research. We had an expert witness come in, Russ Scow, who came in and gave us his opinion of looking over these votes and comparing them with certain databases, namely the National Change of Address Registry and, of course, the Social Security Death Index, to determine that we discovered anomalies in it that were worthwhile of bringing before the attention of the court and the attention of the public. For instance, we found 338,453 registered voters who had moved from the address that received the ballot. 6,765 of those who had actually put in a change of address had moved as much as 4 years before. 178,396 had moved out of state, and 1,375 voters were registered twice. Now, you might say, well, that's insufficient to meet the vote tally needed to make up for some 500,000 votes required to get Loren Culp elected governor. But this wasn't the issue in the campaign. The issue in the campaign had to do with, and the issue in this lawsuit had to do with primarily whether or not we had an election that comported to both Washington and federal law, a significant issue. Now, the national change of address updates are provided by the U.S. Post Office. And when our expert witness ran the update on November in 2020, he received 5,093,510 updates with 9-digit zip codes. Of the 5,236,436 registered voters' addresses maintained by the Secretary of State, the Secretary of State only had 117,540 of them with 9-digit zip codes. This infers that the Secretary of State did not run a national change of address, a database update, and instead simply relied on the data that was there, the data that had been accumulated. And we believe that was insufficient as a matter of state and federal law in terms of the accuracy of the list. But when listening to the numbers, it's critical to refer to Article 6, Section 1 of Washington's Constitution, because this article requires voters to be at least 18, to be citizens of the United States, and to be persons who have lived in the state, county, and precinct for the 30 days immediately preceding the election. The Secretary of State swears an oath to uphold and defend this provision of the Constitution and has a constitutionally imposed duty to do so. However, neither the Secretary of the State nor the county auditors made any effort to determine the citizenship of the voters, instead claiming that they are blocked by statute from making inquiry. This may or may not be true. We've never had a chance to litigate it. Instead, they rely on self-reporting. To be sure, Washington Law RCW 29A08230 declares that for all voter registrations, the registrant shall sign the following oath. This oath declares that the oath is true, that the oath maker is a U.S. citizen, that the oath maker will have lived in Washington for at least 30 days immediately before the election, that the voter is at least 16 years old and not disqualified by court order and not under supervision for any felony conviction. That's an important law. It's a law that's binding on every applicant who registers to vote in the state of Washington. Federal law, 52 U.S. Code, Section 1010101 et sequitur, which is called the HAVA, Help America Vote Act, also requires voters to be U.S. citizens. But can the Secretary of State, and does the Secretary of State, take all necessary steps to determine that, in fact, every registered voter is a U.S. citizen? It's an important issue for many voters in Washington. The state of Washington issues driver's licenses to non-U.S. citizens. RCW 4620035F allows an immigration and naturalization form to serve as a form of identification in obtaining a Washington driver's license. Well, this is an important issue because if you have an automatic registration, which we do, because Washington Law RCW 4620-156 allows for automatic voter registration for those getting or renewing driver's licenses. And if that's the case, do non-citizens slip through the cracks at the Department of Licensing? And equally important, can the Department of Licensing and does the Department of Licensing require a signed oath from people who are getting their driver's license or renewing their driver's license? Because in whether they do or whether they don't, they automatically transmit the list of those who have received driver's license and who are renewing live driver's license to the Secretary of State with no documentation concerning the citizenship of the applicant, nor is the Department of Licensing required to forward any copy of the oath. They simply provide the name and the address and the gender of the person and the location and the signature. That's a very discrete list, insufficient to secure constitutional security as to who the person, who the registrant actually is. The Department of Licensing cannot obtain an oath from a non-citizen, nor may the SOS make inquiry, the Secretary of State make inquiry as to their citizenship. At least that is the claim of Secretary of State Kim Wyman, that she can't even make inquiry into their citizenship. As a result, the Secretary of State cannot meet her constitutionally mandated duty to ensure only U.S. citizens vote. I mean, this is just really, she's between a rock and a hard spot, if you will. It's a very difficult issue because we have a constitutional provision saying you must, and we have statute saying you cannot. So we sought to obtain judicial review of these anomalies, expecting the assistance of some balance of power at the national level that could require some measure of judicial accountability at the trial level. All of that has vanished in the last several days, poof, into a little cloud of smoke. Although the Constitution supersedes any statutory guidelines governing the election, the laws concerning challenging election results here do not leave the voter meaningful alternatives. Voters in other states, for instance, the state of Michigan, have secured for themselves a constitutional right to audit any county's elections by constitutional right. There's no fee required to do it. They simply demand the audit following the vote. Our lawsuit sought an equitable remedy to allow a statewide audit of the entire election, something different than a precinct by precinct or county by county audit of going after particular kinds of registrations or certain anomalies in the county. We thought there was a systemic problem in the election in Washington that required a statewide audit. The state has responded, insisting that the Secretary of State owes no duty whatsoever to the Culp for Governor campaign, and therefore the campaign lacks standing to even bring the lawsuit. Okay, well, it's a legal argument. It's a good legal argument. An equitable remedy based on constitutional claims seeks essential fairness based on the claim that Article 6, Section 1 has some real meaning in law. Unfortunately, the technicalities of this case will not allow us to continue in the state Superior Court, where the case was filed in the King County Superior Court. As a result, we're going to leave this battleground now and instead bring our case for election reform to you and the court of public opinion. As counsel for the Culp campaign, I have urged Loren Culp to dismiss this action, given our technical standing, and have urged him to return to the political battleground to continue to fight to restore our constitutional government here in Washington and to establish an election system in which all of us have confidence. While those who were elected believe the election was accurate and fair, those who have been disenfranchised have little to none confidence in this system. The courts here have been a traditional safe haven for disputes, a place to seek redress of grievances by means of intelligent argument, rather than street violence that we see in many of the cities here in the Pacific Northwest. But because of the elaborate statutory scheme surrounding election law, this particular avenue, the court, is not available to us today. Consider, therefore, what must be done politically as compared to what must be done from a judicial point of view. What structures must be conceived and promoted into the marketplace of ideas to restore confidence in our system. We have confidence in our candidate, Loren Culp. We have confidence in our values and the rights bestowed upon us by our Maker. Now, let us do what is necessary to regain confidence in our elections. Thank you.
All right, there you have it. I had a long conversation with Dr. Pigeon last night, and he strongly urged, as he said in that video, that we drop this lawsuit. He said that the Attorney General's office would probably string this out for years, costing us millions of dollars. Now, I'm not willing to ask you for that money just to end up having a judge throw it out for standing and then have the state, through that judge, require us to pay back the state for the cost incurred. And I guarantee you that they will. And it would be millions of dollars. I don't have that money. I don't feel that it would be right to ask you for that money, just to have it thrown out by a judge. Add to these facts is that there's a bill introduced in the Democrat-controlled 2021 legislature with an emergency clause that makes it take effect immediately. And it's retroactive. It's House Bill 1068. And if you search for that, make sure you're searching for 2021. Because the old 1068 bill was about magazine capacity. That bill bars any public records request for documents relating to election security or audits. With the government we have in Washington State, we will never be able to get access to information. It's a road full of landmines, and if we go in and they close the door behind us with this bill, which they will do, then we're done for good. When I was a sergeant in the U.S. military, I was a combat engineer. One of my jobs was to find and locate landmines and then disarm them before anyone had got blown up. Any commander that would just send their troops through a landmine is an idiot and would cause death and destruction. Given this minefield in front of us, we are going to back off go around it, and live to fight another day. I've instructed my lawyer to withdraw us from this lawsuit, which he did at about midnight last night. I'm not happy about this, and I know you aren't either. But it just doesn't mean that the war's over. It just means that we are not going to engage in this particular battle through the courts. I'm a fighter and always will be, but we have to be smart and not just plow straight ahead into this minefield. We either have a constitution in Washington state or we don't. Article 6 clearly states that only citizens of the United States can vote in our elections. You should all ask your representatives and the Secretary of State what they're doing to uphold and defend the Constitution. Remember, they raise their right hand and they swear an oath that I will uphold and defend the Constitution. That's the main issue for me. Article 6 clearly states only American citizens can vote in our elections. They will probably tell you, if you do ask them, that they can't do that because we're a sanctuary state and there's state law that says you can't ask someone their nationality, where they're a citizen of. So the result of that is we have people from foreign countries voting in our elections. And we all know how many millions of foreign nationals live in the United States, especially in Washington state. Now, we had several of them ready to testify in court. But when it came down to it, actually getting the paperwork and signing it, putting their name to it and putting their name out there, they backed out because they were fearful of being deported. We had legal immigrants and illegal immigrants both, but they don't want to get deported. So I took my lawyer's advice and did what we had to do. And with that, I'd like to bring in Chris Gergen to add some commentary to this. Chris?
Good morning, Loren. How are you?
I've been better, but
yeah,
we'll get through this just like we get through everything.
You know, this entire situation, the timing of this is really stunning. We filed our lawsuit, we talked about it, and there was just rumblings back and forth via the media and social media. So we end up filing our lawsuit on December 23rd, and within 10 days, the Democrat caucus has a bill put together, ready to roll, that gets submitted on the 4th. Basically, what the bill does, ladies and gentlemen, is this bill completely closes down any sort of transparency regarding the internal workings of the election process. So if you were to file a FOIA request regarding anything to do with the election, it would be automatically denied just out of hand. If we were in the middle of a lawsuit and we wanted to get access to that information, or we had investigators that were filing FOIA requests to get access to information for evidence, this bill would completely eliminate that sort of possibility. So that happens on the 4th. And then yesterday, at the same time all of this is kind of happening and moving forward, the Washington State Democrat Party sends a letter to our attorney and files a letter with the Washington State Bar Association in an effort to disbar our attorney, basically for attacking their verbiage was something, and I'm not don't quote me on this, but this is just kind of some summary of what they said, was that this entire lawsuit, his efforts, our efforts, is an attack on the integrity and confidence of the Washington state election system.
And that's what the left's narrative is, that I'm undermining the integrity of our elections. There is no integrity in our elections when you have citizens from foreign countries and multiple foreign countries voting in our elections. That is not integrity. And there's no one in our state that is standing up for integrity, not the Secretary of State, not the governor, not the Attorney General, because we are a sanctuary state. They are putting RCW over the Washington State Constitution, Article 6.
If everything is fine with the elections, Mrs. Wyman, why not open up the books? The Washington State Democrat Party, if there's everything that's fine with the election system, why are we filing House Bill, this House bill? If everything is clear, everything is fine, why the big pushback? Why the big freak out? Why are we locking
right from the very
down?
beginning?
From the very beginning. Absolutely. And so if we are wrong, and we are open to being wrong, I hope the system is right. I hope that the votes of Washington citizens actually do count. I hope the system is not rigged. But we need to discover whether or not that's true. And a thorough examination, when you've got nothing to hide, shouldn't be a problem. The behavior here is really suspect, and it is the Democrats have created a system that is virtually airtight, ladies and gentlemen. And I've never seen a Democrat caucus defend a Republican with so much vigor, and I mean, they're really coming to the rescue of Mrs. Wyman, and it really calls into question Mrs. Wyman's priorities and her loyalties to Washington citizens, as well as to protect the voices of conservatives. As a conservative, she claims. Loren, she went out in the media a couple weeks ago, or maybe about a week ago, and said, Mrs. Wyman said that she doesn't really know where she stands in the party right now. I would suggest possibly she doesn't stand anywhere in the party. Possibly she needs to change parties, because this is just out of control.
It shouldn't be about party. It's
Exactly.
not about Republican or Democrat. It's about the rule of law, the way our American way, which is the rule of law. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It says that right in it. And when you have Article 6 of our Washington State Constitution saying that you must be a citizen of the United States of America, and then you have elected public servants who don't enforce that, they don't check that, they don't uphold and defend the Constitution and their oath of office, because they jump back on the RCW that makes us a sanctuary state, and it is against the law. It is against RCW to ask someone their citizenship. That goes for the jail. That goes for police officers. No one can ask anyone's citizenship, period. And that RCW is in violation of Article 6 of the state constitution that mandates only United States citizens vote in our elections, but they don't have a backbone to stand up against it. They don't have the backbone to uphold and defend the Constitution and conform to their oath of office, right? They're just using that as an excuse. Nobody asks. It's the honor system. If you get a driver's license in this state, you're automatically registered to vote. That is absolutely ridiculous, and that's the basis of my lawsuit from the very beginning, as far as I was concerned.
So where do we go from here? That's the big question. There's no quit over here. There's more than, growing up, as a teenager, I lived in the South, and they always have sayings for things in the South. And we have a saying down here that says, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to get this done. The statewide elections are suspect. I would be very careful of anybody running a statewide campaign. But the local campaigns are something that we can still be competitive. We've shown that we can be competitive. Conservatives have shown that we can be competitive. We need to focus on local races. We need to focus on local legislative races. The New Patriot PAC, which is a PAC that you and I started, Loren, is going to be focused on the local level races as well as the legislative races. And, the first thing we need to do is clean our own house. There's a Bible verse that says that you can't take the beam out of your brother's eye when you've got, or you can't take the speck out of your brother's eye when you've got a beam in your own. So we can't take out the corruption in the Democrat Party until we take out the corrupt and weak within our own party. And there certainly are several of those. And so we're going to be looking at targeted legislative races to run conservatives that have conservative values, that are not there because they want their own power trip, or they want to enrich themselves, or they want to benefit themselves, but they actually want to stand up for we the people. So we'll be analyzing all of the different legislative races and choosing and being very targeted on how we attack this. And as we move forward, so we have lost control of the state legislative process here. That's the first problem we have to fix. If we don't capture at least one of the two chambers, then there's nothing that we can do. I mean, it's
just a steamroller running straight to socialism right now.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way to stop it. In Congress at the federal level, I work with clients at the federal level as well. What they're looking at there is they're saying the same thing that I'm telling you right now, is that we have to focus nationwide on the legislative level, not just the congressional level, but we have to focus on the state legislative level. That way we can take control of these state houses and start to correct the ship. Because, Loren, we are going down a very bad road. And if we just stop and don't do anything, there's nothing good ahead of us.
Well, it was said long ago that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to sit back and do nothing.
Correct. Yeah. So this is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen, and we are continuing this fight, and we're going to get this done. It's going to be a long process. Anybody looking for a quick, cheap win, you're going to be disappointed. This is a long process. Someone asked me the other day, Loren, when does this all end? And I had to tell them it doesn't. This is a perpetual, forever fight to protect freedom and liberty, and we cannot rest, and there is no rest, and we need to be training new people, new generations to step up and take the watch, and to continue to defend freedom and liberty. That hasn't happened, frankly, in the last 20, 30 years like it should have, or like it needed to. But I believe that maybe we're in a time where people are starting to wake up.
Yeah, I believe they are. I mean, look at our campaign all across this state.
Yep.
Thousands of people coming to rallies. It's never been seen in this state before. It absolutely incredible. We need everybody to stay in that fight with us. In closing, I've said this before, but everybody, I know that you're disappointed. I'm disappointed, but we need to just take a deep breath, say a prayer, and remember who's in charge of this world, and realize that because we may have stumbled, we may have fallen, we get back up and we fight. We don't give up, and oftentimes difficulty, hard times lead to a new opportunity. So just keep that in mind. I want to remind everyone, don't participate in any violence anywhere. That is not what we're about. We are about the Constitution, supporting real conservative candidates for office is what we have to do. Like Chris said, statewide races, until we get in-person voting, statewide races, we're never going to have a conservative win a statewide race in this state, period. We need to get back to in-person voting.
I agree 100%. And lastly, Loren, before I forget, if we get deplatformed, if we get taken off of Facebook, which is a possibility, if we get removed from Twitter, which is probably a stronger possibility, we do have alternatives, and we're going to be rolling those out pretty soon. We've been working very hard on that. It was stunning, Loren, that these tech companies have taken such drastic I mean, this is just straight up communism, straight up silencing. We see this in South America, in our work in South America, where the government just comes in and just shuts it down, pulls the plug out, and that's it. Like there's no recourse. I never thought, honestly, that we would see that here in the United States. That was a misjudgment on my part, and not one that I will ever make again. So we will have alternatives. Let's put it that way. There's a very strong possibility that you will be watching these lives on our website. So it would behoove you, if you want to stay connected with us, go to the New Conservative, the New Patriot PAC. Within 24 hours, we will have a link up on the website to put in your email address so we can stay connected with you. We will not spam you or sell your information or any of that. This is to stay connected with you guys, so you get our live updates, so you can continue to watch the show. We will stay on whatever platform allows us to be for as long as we can. That day may never come where they deplatform us, but if it does, then we want to have a good plan B.
I don't know why they would. We haven't said anything that they should be kicking us off for, but that hasn't stopped them in the past. But we've
Right.
also got the YouTube channel. Everybody go over there to the YouTube channel and subscribe.
Yes.
And click the bell for alerts. But when
Yes.
Chris gets that link up on the PAC website, make sure that you sign up for the email alerts. That way I can let you know wherever we go, whatever platform. So I appreciate everybody joining us today. Do you have anything else, Chris?
No, sir. Thank you very much for having me on.
All right, you bet, Chris. God bless you all. Thank you very much.